Here today to show how technology can be used as an equalizer and how the publishing community can more effectively reach diverse audiences, please welcome Kaya Thomas. Kaya is a junior at Dartmouth College, hold your applause, where she is majoring in computer science. Her interest in technology began during the winter of 2014, and she began working at Title Factor, a game design lab for social change. In August 2014, she developed an iOS application called We Read Too. We Read Too is a book resource application that showcases a directory of hundreds of children's and young adult fiction books written by and for people of color. For her work in educating and technology, Kaya was recently honored by First Lady Michelle Obama at the 2015 Black Girls Rock Awards. Please join me in welcoming Kaya.
So to start off, before I start talking about my app, I want to give you some context on what led me to creating it. So the Cooperative Children's Book Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison has been collecting data on children's books written by Black, Native American, Asian, and Latino authors and books that feature characters of those same backgrounds for well over 10 years. The most recent data in 2015 shows that less than 11% of those children's books were written by people of color, and less than 15% were written about people of color. This means that millions of children and teens of color have few options when it comes to finding books that are written by someone of their same background, or a book that features characters that look like them. So what does this mean for kids of color? I grabbed this quote from educator Amy Rothschild, which exemplifies her experience as a teacher. She looked for books for her students that came from underrepresented backgrounds and was challenged and often resigned to collecting the same books over and over. People of color make up over 30% and 19% of the American and Canadian populations, respectively. In the United States, over 50% of children under 1 year old were non-white as of July 2011, and the population of people of color in Canada is projected to grow to over 30% in less than 20 years. This is a problem not only faced by young students of color, but also faced by educators, librarians, community members, and anyone who wants to enrich the lives of children and teens through literature. So where do I fit into all of this? Let's go back about 15 to 18 years ago, when I first learned how to read. This is a photo of me around 2 or 3 years old. And I always loved reading from the time I began to learn. It allowed me to escape into a new world and learn new things and experience my imagination through the characters in the books. I even wanted to write my own books, and by the time I was in middle school, I was writing an alien sci-fi book that unfortunately I never finished. My parents always encouraged me to read. And oftentimes, they went from bookstore to find children's books that featured Black girl characters. They spent hours physically looking for pictures books that I can see myself in. I was a very curious child, so much so that my parents even got me books so that I can have answers to the questions I so bothered them with. So as you can tell, books have always been a huge part of my life. And when I got to high school, I started picking out all of my own books. I would go to the library every week and pick out 2 to 3 books to read each week. It was around this time I started to notice something off about the books that I was reading. These are some of my favorite titles from my teenage years. I love romantic comedies, dystopian fiction, and series especially. But if you look closely, you'll notice that all the characters on the covers are white. It was during high school I started learning more about my identity, and I started to really understand what it means for me to be a Black woman. I realized that my experience in life is greatly affected by both my race and my gender. I yearned for stories about other Black girls, but often when I found those stories in the library, they were urban drama fiction where the tales were tragic and never uplifting. I wanted the same fun, romantic, adventurous stories I had always been reading, but I wanted them with a character who looked like me. Being a teenager is an incredibly confusing time already, as I'm sure many of you remember. And I struggle with self-esteem and confidence, as many teenagers do. I felt like I needed to read stories about other nerdy Black girls who made it through their teenage years confident and successful. I talked with my friends about it, and they felt the same. I told them that I wish there was a resource where I can easily find that type of book. At the time, I had no idea how to create such a resource or even that I can learn the skills to create such a thing. So fast forward, a year after I graduated high school, I discovered computer science. I started taking computer science in the middle of my first year at Dartmouth College, and I fell in love with it in almost the same way that I fell in love with books all those years before. While books allowed me to discover new worlds, coding showed me how to create new things and connect worlds through the things that I could create. So in the summer of 2014, with my newfound coding skills, I decided to create a resource that I had imagined back in my high school time. I named it We Read Too because I wanted the world to know that young people of color love to read just as much as other kids and teens, and that we should have the opportunity to know what books are out there for us and easily access them. So here are a few screenshots from the actual app right now. And so when you first go into the app, you select children's or young adult fiction, and that will lead you directly to the directory, which is a list of the books of those genres. I had to actually manually find all of the books that are in Reread Too. So back in 2014, when I was looking for these books, I searched for weeks finding them because there is no metadata associated with the author's ethnicity when you're looking for tags associated with books. So I searched for hours and hours, searching through different blog posts where people had a list of maybe 10 or so authors by specific ethnicities. And it took me weeks to be able to compile a little over 300 books to be able to create Reread Too. And there are thousands out there, but they're just not easy to find. The directory inside of Reread Too is easily searchable, so you can search for any titles or authors that you're in particularly looking for. Then you can view the description of the book as well as share the book through email, text, social media, etc. You can also go directly to the book's Amazon page from the app. And an important feature that I put in the app is the suggestions feature. And I created the suggestions feature because I knew that manually searching for these books myself wouldn't be sustainable over time. And so I created the suggestions feature so that users can tell me books that they believe should be in the directory. In the past year and a half, I've gotten over 800 suggestions of books that users want in Reread Too. I've gone through those suggestions with another student, and we've been able to double Reread Too's directory in the past year and a half. But we still have to manually go through to ensure that the books that are being suggested to us are also written by the same people who the characters are, the background of the characters they're coming from. The newest feature in Reread Too is the Discover tab. Because I understand that not everyone has the time to search through the directory, or they might not even know what they're actually looking for, I created the Discover tab so that you can easily click on children's or young adult fiction and be sent to a new book. This way, every time you click on the button, you can see a new book randomly each time, and that way you don't have to search through the list, and you can just easily compile a list of your own if you're searching for many books. The response from Reread Too has been incredible. I never imagined how many people would reach out to me and let me know that they needed an app like Reread Too. This is an email I received from an author who is self-published because she is a working mom and didn't have access to a network of publishers or anyone to help her market her book. She wrote her book with her children in mind so that they can read the book and see themselves and see their family represented on the page. Her email is one of several I have received from authors of color who want their work featured in Reread Too because they believe it will give them the opportunity to have their work spotlighted and allow readers to discover their work. Authors of color often don't get the opportunity to be in the spotlight, whether that means being on the front page of a large bookseller's site or having their physical book on a stand in front of a popular bookstore. There are already very few authors of color writing children's books, and if those authors face so little support, how can we tell more writers of color to try to publish their children's books if it is so hard for them to do so? A lot of other responses to Reread Too have come from educators and parents. Here you can read a few reviews from them that they've put in the App Store. One teacher wrote, "When I was compiling a summer reading list for elementary grade students, this would have been a great resource. It is difficult to find resources for books about children of color, even online. Try Googling books for students of color." We need to address this problem. Thank you so much for this app, and please keep adding more books. Many teachers have small libraries in their classrooms or in their schools, and imagine if the students of color in those schools don't have one book where a character looks like them or comes from a similar background. How might that affect those students? Teachers already have such an important and hard job, and I know they may not have time to look for hours upon hours for books that can relate to all of their students. But with Reread 2, the looking is done all for them, and they can easily find books within minutes. Parents and other family members who want to gift books for young children can do so using Reread 2, even while they're in the store, without having to do long research beforehand to find a book they want to get. And I want to really ensure that you understand that Reread 2 isn't only for children of color to have access to these books. I believe that it is important for all young people to read books with characters who are both similar to themselves and different, so that they have the opportunity to be exposed to other cultures. But so often, young children of color are only subjected to reading books where the characters are not like them. Everyone should have the opportunity to read literature that they can relate to culturally and where they feel represented. My work with Reread 2 is only a small part of the picture when it comes to inclusion in the book industry. The following are some of my calls to action for the publishing industry related to inclusion. First, books written by people of color should be easier to find. Aside from a few articles here and there that come out with 10 books written by Black, Latino, Asian, Native American authors, etc., there should be a way for those who want to aggregate all the books to do so. For example, if there were metadata tags that can show the ethnicity of the author or the ethnicity of the characters in the book, that would make it easier to aggregate titles in relation to the background of the authors and characters. Although tagging these books would not be an easy feat, it would create space for more apps and resources like Reread 2 to allow those who need and want to find these books to easily access them. Secondly, just like a lot of other industries, people of color do not have much representation in the publishing industry. According to data collected by Lee & Low Books, the publishing industry overall is 79% white, and on the executive level, that percentage raises to 86% white. This means that there are not a lot of people of color making the decisions on who gets published and why. If ethnic authors are looking to get published, they might not even know where to start or who to reach out to. There needs to be an expansion of the publishing network so that people from underrepresented backgrounds can have support and know who to go to in order to try to get their work published. There also needs to be an effort to diversifying hiring of those who are making decisions in the publishing industry. Both steps are necessary in order to attract and provide opportunity for different types of authors to create work for audiences that may not be a part of the mainstream. Lastly, for the books that have been published by authors of color, there needs to be more efforts to market these books more heavily so that they have the opportunity to grow their audience. Why don't we see more books written by ethnic authors on the front page of bookseller sites or in popular bookstores? There has to be more support for these authors so they have the same opportunity to grow and reach a wider range of readers. Thank you so much for your time, and a special thanks to Book Canada for inviting me to speak. I'd like to leave the rest of the time we have for questions and really start a conversation with you all.
Liam Quinn, W3C. I, not in a professional capacity, work with a lot of people who are gay and trans, which is a separate. People of colour are not actually a minority, really, but and in fiction, we have labels for gay fiction and trans fiction, and it's absolutely awesome because libraries and bookstores can decide not to carry them.
Oh.
All right, so that's a slight worry that I have, that if you label things, you may help people discriminate, and how do you mitigate that kind of problem?
That's a really good point, and I think if there were to be tags related to the ethnicity of the author or the characters in the book, and then libraries or bookstores decided to bar these books from being a part of their collections, I think that would show to a greater issue that needs to be addressed. And I think that would be able to really show that, hey, pointing out that there's a really big problem. If they decide to not carry these books because there are tags associated with it, I think that would allow for a larger conversation and allow publishers to say, hey, you cannot do that, and allow them to push these books more heavily because such a problem would exist. So I think that would actually open up the conversation more and provide opportunity for publishers to really support and back the authors that they're going to publish who are from underrepresented backgrounds. That was a great point. Yeah.
Thanks, that's a really positive take on the question.
For being here today. I think this is really a message that the publishing industry needs to hear, and to hear a lot more, so it's really great to have you. As a person who hires people, I have two questions for you. One is, are you looking for work in publishing? And two is, regardless of the answer to that, how would you tell people like us to find the candidates like you who can bring more diverse voices to our companies?
Of course. The first question, I'm not sure yet. I still have about a year to decide what I'm going to do after graduation. But for the second question, I think whenever you're looking to really diversify your hiring, you have to reach out to organizations and universities that have communities of people of underrepresented backgrounds. So in the United States, there are historically black colleges and universities and historically Hispanic colleges and universities. So that is a way to go directly to students who are definitely looking for work and where there are a large community of writers as well. But even so, you can go to larger universities and reach out to their groups that they have. Most universities have groups where Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American students gather and collect, and you can reach out to those groups specifically and go to their meetings and do recruitment that way. As well, if you're looking for organizations, there are plenty of organizations that are supporting youth from underrepresented backgrounds, and I would say going to colleges and universities and reaching out that way, and directly reaching out to organizations that are providing community mentorship and support for young people in underrepresented backgrounds.
I'm going to ask a very sensitive and charged question. Do you think that the struggles that you either personally see with the development of your app is indicative of racism in the publishing industry?
Very, very charged question.
I had to go there.
Yeah, of course. I would say that in any industry, there is systemic oppression, just historically, when we look at groups and how they've been oppressed, that when industries are created, they have the same things that our society has. So yes, I would say that there are issues of racism and sexism, et cetera, in any industry, just because of the historical history of oppression. And I would say that in order to change that industries have to be honest with that and say, historically, if we look at oppression, when organizations are created, you're created in times where these things were acceptable. So you have to really break down the culture and break down the systemic issues that have historically presented themselves in any industry. So I would say that the publishing industry, just like any other industry, needs to really be serious and address them and not try to hide or try to be, oh, I don't think those are really issues, but really being honest and open and transparent and saying, listen, we have these problems just like society, just like any other industry, and we need to work hard to really dismantle these systemic issues. So
I just want to say I'm so happy to hear this topic. Like, it's really refreshing that we're bringing this conversation to, a nice large group of people. And I want to know, what can we do to support the app, and maybe give us some tidbits on how we can kind of take this away and further the cause.
Of course. So I think in terms of further support, regardless of whether you are in the publishing industry, you're a writer or you're a technologist, if you have an iPhone, download Reread 2. And I think as well, really, it's just about awareness. So really think about the type of books that you're reading or the type of things that you're buying, right? Because a lot of the things that how we show our support is through our pockets, right? So really look at the books that you're buying, and if you're in the publishing industry, look at the books that you're publishing. And I think that I would specifically to say to those who are in the publishing industry, see how you can expand your own network. When we think about how books get published, how people are reached out to, a lot of it is through referrals, right, and through networking. See if you can reach out to organizations and communities of writers from underrepresented backgrounds to really expand your own network. And if there are books that you know, the same type of books over and over that you're seeing getting out there, try to discover more. And I really think the next step, one of the points to the calls of action that I mentioned is really important, I think, is the metadata. I think that would actually be so essential, really, to help more resources like We Read Too become a reality, because we would be able to aggregate that data. So if you have any foothold in that industry, please reach out to me. That would be a big help, and I would love to be a part of really getting that to become a reality. Thank you so much, everyone.